October 3rd is German Unity Day, and this year marks the 30th anniversary of Germany's reunification. Celebrations are being held in Potsdam, the capital of the state of Brandenburg. Potsdam city center has been turned into an open-air exhibition. Each of the 16 German states is showcased in glass cubes like this one. But central to the exhibition is the history of Germany's division and eventual coming together as one unified nation. That fateful event in 1990 also paved the way for Potsdam to recover some of its historical splendor. In the 30 years since Germany's reunification, Potsdam hasn't aged a bit. Quite the contrary, actually. The city center has been completely revamped, and the Prussian palaces and parks have received a thorough beauty treatment. Most importantly, though, the days of walls and border fences separating Potsdam from neighboring Berlin are long gone. The Glienicke Bridge is one particularly famous symbol of German division and reunification. The bridge connects Berlin and Brandenburg. The border between the states goes right through it. Potsdam's side of the bridge is painted in a light shade of green. Berlin's side is slightly darker. This line right here is where Potsdam and with it East Germany ended, and this right here was already West Berlin. During the Cold War, the bridge was off limits to civilians, and still it was famous the world over. As a bridge of spies. It was used as a point of exchange of undercover agents between the US and the Soviet Union. With the border now gone, the Havel has become quite lively. Today, it's a popular spot for boating and other water sports. It wasn't for nothing that Potsdam was the favored residence of the Prussian kings for 2 centuries. Evidence of that can still be seen in the cityscape to this day. In the olden days, life in Potsdam buzzed all around the base of the obelisk in the old market square. In the past 30 years, it's been remodeled to restore its pre-war appearance. It would have probably been easier to modernize the square. Why did the city opt for historic reconstruction?
There was a time when the half-constructed shell of the Hans Otto Theater stood here, a big, hulking block that was a prestige project for East Germany. Then the wall fell, the political situation changed, and eventually a decision was made to tear it down. So then the space was empty and open, and there were plans to reconstruct Potsdam's city palace, that is, the state parliament. And then someone thought, hey, we've got a great ensemble here with the old city hall and St. Nicholas's church. Let's construct the state parliament in the historic style.
And so, in 2014, Potsdam regained its majestic city palace. The columns are old, bullet holes from the Second World War still clearly visible. Bits of the old city palace were integrated into the new one in over 100 places. The reconstruction must have been very costly. Where did the money come from?
We got public funding, of course, but there were also donations from private parties, wealthy people, sponsors and patrons. They were citizens of Potsdam and people who'd come to Potsdam and fallen in love with the city. The historic facade of the state parliament, for instance, was paid by one man. It cost 20 million euros.
And Potsdam's classic skyline is not finished yet. A number of new, old buildings are still being planned. One of the reasons Potsdam became a favorite among Prussian royalty was the city's location in the midst of a lush landscape dotted with rivers and lakes. They built beautiful palaces, gardens, and castles, and earned Potsdam the nickname Versailles of the North. The most well-known and frequently visited palace is Sans Souci. This summer residence was also the favorite of its builder, Prussian King Frederick II. There are 16 palaces in Potsdam. The Belvedere wasn't a residential palace. Its purpose was to provide an overlook tower. From up here, you can get a great view of the landscape the royals loved so much.
During the Cold War, this entire landscape was fragmented by militarized zones and fortified borders separating east and west. In 1990, though, the palaces and parks of Potsdam were reunited with those in Berlin on the other side of the river Havel. And in that same year, UNESCO declared the ensemble to be the first all-German World Heritage Site.
Until late 1989, the Berlin Wall cut right behind Cäcilienhof Palace. This is a very special place. World history was quite literally written here in the summer of 1945. After the Second World War, 3 of the victorious Allied powers negotiated the New World Order here. The Red Star on the lawn was planted by Soviet soldiers for this historic meeting, the Potsdam Conference. Until the end of 2020, visitors can learn more about these defining days in a special exhibition.
It was in this very room that the US, the UK, and the Soviet Union negotiated the future of post-war Germany and Europe.
On one hand, the decisions made during the Potsdam Conference settled the end of the Second World War. On the other, they marked the beginning of the Cold War, a conflict that saw an Iron Curtain descend on the continent and led to the construction of the wall. The Potsdam Conference put Cäcilienhof Palace squarely in the world spotlight. After Sanssouci, it's the most frequently visited palace in the city. Typically, well over 1 million visitors a year come to see Potsdam's gardens, parks, and palaces. Potsdam is one of the very few Eastern German cities that's actually growing. In 1990, it had around 140,000 residents. Now, it has nearly 180,000. Many prominent figures have bought or built homes here since reunification. The reasons are obvious. Where else can you live smack in the middle of a city and at the same time be surrounded by water and nature as far as the eye can see? Return to where I started because I can't leave Potsdam without a souvenir. Here, snap-happy Instagrammers get the chance to stage their own daring escape on Glienicke Bridge.
Spy memories from Potsdam, those will go straight into my top secret file. It was truly remarkable to see what has become of Potsdam in these past decades, and it'll certainly be interesting to keep tabs on the city's evolution. I hope you enjoyed our journey today. Thanks for joining me once more, and I'll see you next time, somewhere in Germany.